Hi, I'm Rohit. I'm the co-founder and creative chief at The Glitch, and we are live at Social Samosa. So primarily, I think a lot with this acquisition that came through. I mean, it was one of the first few acquisitions that happened by a media agency that acquired a creative agency, right? So the changes or any this thing of that front has always been on the back end side of it. So where Group M has come in and really helped us is on our back end, is from an operational standpoint. So they said that, hey, we know your creative output, we know the magic that you built, you continue to do that, we will support you by taking away things that don't need to hamper your this thing. So where they've come in is things like, for example, operations, finance, HR. These are things that they've come in and they've kind of put a structure to it. So there's like added a method to the madness of sorts. From a front end point of view, which is more the creative angle that we operate in, that's something that we still continue to run the way we are. Uh, One definite addition has been the influx of data, right? And we've always been strong advocates as a company to say that, hey, data is going to be the next big thing, and we need to look at how data marries with creative. And what we didn't have access to is probably that data push, which Group M, with their entire behemoth of data that they sit with, they were able to provide us with a lot of that. So, which is probably led to sharper insights. So if you look at the last 1 year and what kind of work we've done, far sharper insights. We've used data really well to understand this from that perspective. So our clients have benefited from that. So yeah, that's largely the change. If you had to ask me, that's it's interesting we said this because this is probably one of the early mission vision statements that you write, right? So when you are kind of putting together a document to turn around and say what exactly do, we turned and said, are we so we started as a production house, which then pivoted to become an agency. Our clear focus was we will never be a social media agency. So we wanted a better definition to put it, and we said we're idea first, platform agnostic. So a nicer way to put that through was to say we believe in screens, and behind every screen is a human being. So no matter where that screen is and whatever that screen is, we want to be able to come and cater to you at that point in time, because that is what the new digital age is. So it could be that television that you're watching, it could be that iPad you're on, it could be that watch you're looking at, or the phone you're in, or even an outdoor digital hoarding that is there, right? So we said we will come in and build content that will serve across these screens, which will help brands increase their presence. And that's the reason why I mean, that's where you would have probably heard this from multiple sets of us talking about saying we like to cater to screens. We are idea first, platform agnostic, right? So that's how we position ourselves today. Is we always call ourselves a modern partner to ambitious brands. So we, and that's taking off from the earlier piece, which said that where the need arises, we will come in and support you with it. So whatever, different brands have different needs, different brands have different needs at different points of time. So sometimes it's a business need to solve it, can we help you solve it, and we'll find you the right screen or the right medium to solve it with it. Sometimes it's a direct brand love problem, can we solve that in a different. So yeah, so we've kind of tried to touch across every medium that people exist in, consumers exist in, and be there. I think while a platform strategy is very key and that's something that we look for different brands in, we don't define the agency on the back of a platform, right? For us, it is content. It is, end of the day, it's a content piece that rests on. Today it's TikTok. Yesterday it was Snapchat, and some time ago it was Twitter. So what was in Twitter is also a piece of content. It was 140 characters, which became 280, but it's still, how do you engage with people in that thing? TikTok is the latest fad where everybody seems to be now. Just because it's the new word, do we need to jump in there? I don't know. I don't think so. That's the thing. like I said earlier, we address a need, right? So depending on a brand, depending on the brand need, and depending on the audience that that brand is catering to, we go where that audience lies. So if we're talking to, I mean, we have this whole India Bharat equation, right? So when you're talking to Bharat and there is a brand that really needs to tap into them, we go where they are. So that's probably ShareChat, and then how do we jump in there? So we don't, as a company, we are not like worried that, oh my god, there is a new platform that's out and how we should immediately take all our brands into that platform. No, that's definitely not the theory we work in. There are brands we've turned around and said we don't need to be there on any of the social platforms and except for one, and use it there. Use the platform very efficiently, and that's what effectively, because there's no point for, I mean, can you imagine, like, if you're a dishwashing liquid, do you need to be there on a TikTok, a Snapchat, a Instagram, a Facebook, and a Twitter? I mean, who is going to have a conversation with you on Twitter for what reason? Can we find a need for you to be there? Yes, we could. Let's identify that, and if the need justifies it, and if there is people consuming that kind of, and your audience lies there, let's go there. But otherwise, there's no. We're definitely an agency that strongly vocally says this, saying that don't go and build a Snapchat filter for something because Snapchat filter is cool. Do it because it will engage a certain audience. If it's not going to be effective, I mean, effective advertising cannot be a separate word. I think advertising needs to be effective, otherwise there's no point of advertising. Our definition, like I said, we're a modern partner to ambitious brands, right? That's what we kind of call ourselves. So ambitious brands is a great way to put it. A lot of our brands that we work with did not exist about 18 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, right? So look at it from a lens of LinkedIn, Netflix, OkCupid, Nokia, which came and then disappeared and came back again in its whole, even with brands like Unilever, which has been there forever, who's now taking a whole new approach to things, right? So our relationship with brands have primarily been, it's not a client agency relationship, it's more a partner relationship. So that modern partner comes in. They look to us to come to them with solutions. We work together to identify a problem, identify a solution, and that problem need not be something that exists today, but something we foresee with them in a few years. So there were brands that, for example, there was a makeup brand that turned around and said that, hey, we're doing decent business, but we foresee that everybody's going to start buying makeup online. Can we make that shift now? So we made that shift for them at a time when e-commerce was just booming, which makes them market leaders today in the e-commerce segment. So to foresee a need before it arises and fulfill that and solve for that, that's the relationship we maintain. And see, the thing is, this whole question of when people turn around and ask you about, digital advertising versus this traditional, I feel at some point of time, how do you define digital advertising? You are living in an era where everything is digital, right? You are living in, I mean, I don't remember the last time I saw cable television. Even a Tata Sky of the works have tried to move into a more on-demand-ish platform, right? Half the screen time you spend is on the phone, and this is not just the youth, the young, this thing, it is across the board. Like, I see people in our housekeeping sometimes sitting there and watching great films on their phones, and they are in touch with a lot of things. So everything today is digital. So in this digital economy, I don't know if the lines are super blurred. So when you say that, hey, is mobile marketing the new thing? You will go where the audience is, and the audience is, I think mobile has a far higher penetration than TV does. That said, where and what kind of tone of voice you use and how you reach out to them, and that's the key aspect it is, and that's something for us to work on, and that's something that we work strongly towards, to segregate the audience, to understand who's where, strategize the right kind of content to reach the right kind of screens. So, and it's interesting. At some long ago when we started doing a bunch of videos for the phone. Somebody had I read this somewhere and it worked really well, saying when you're shooting content for to be delivered on the phone, don't think of it like a 70 cinema. So a lot of times we make that mistake. We end up shooting with a big wide frame when when you end up watching it on a screen this tiny. So whereas in a screen this tiny, the focus ends up being on just 3 or 4 people. So we tried to implement it at that point in time, saying that okay, when you shoot for the phone, let's make content specific for that. So shoot accordingly and not go super wide and things like that. And those were small little nuances that made a big difference. Today, it's end of the day, content is a winner, and the more screens you have, the better for the audience. But find the right screen for the right audience, and that's it. I think the first step is to stop chasing likes, stop chasing views and likes and this thing, because what happens is you're feeding into that fodder, right? So you're giving that fodder to get people to do this. What I've like very recently, I don't want to name them, but I saw some piece out somewhere which had 1.2 million views, which had 5 comments and 4 shares. I'm like, there is no chance in hell you hit 1.2 million views with just 5 people commenting on it and 4 people sharing it. It has clearly been a push piece of advertising. So the more you go into a push advertising spectrum, you will keep feeding into this audience. So what you need to do is to build great content that people seek. Somebody had once quoted, and I keep using this quote so many times, saying that nobody wakes up in the morning and says, oh, let me look for this ad. They look for good content. Sometimes it's an ad. Become that this thing. So have conversations with people that people are seeking, and as opposed to just pushing something onto my face which I don't even give a this thing about. So it's like I'm watching a video and this unnecessary ad comes up and I don't care about this ad unless that ad is actually talking to me about it. So it's important to have effective communication on that front as opposed to this. And we are the fake follower piece is because of that. It's coming. We agencies, we brands are responsible for it, because at some point you turned around and said, okay, iska 1 million views chahiye mujhe, and then now people will do whatever it takes to get you 1 million views. Has the right audience got it, or is it some click farm somewhere? I don't know. But the thing is, stop chasing that. Instead of saying 8 million views chahiye, let's work saying that okay, let us work towards getting a great script that we all enjoy. And then if it gets 1 million views, great. If it gets 500,000, great. But you got 500,000, and I'd rather get 100,000 effective views than get a million unnecessary ones with 3 comments on it. So. I strongly think that if you can tell a story in 6 seconds, then you've told the best story you can tell. Because the thing is, my attention span, you have my attention for 5 seconds, right? It is that 5 seconds that defines the difference between me pressing that skip and anything else. I have to wait that time. Today, in that 5 seconds, if I can tell you what I can tell you, what I need to know, and I get away with it, great. So, I think each of these new formats and stuff that come out are great challenges for us to work in. The canvas gets smaller, but the creative needs to be as magnanimous. What I look forward to when I judge primarily, results are important and all of that definitely does play a key role. But for me, the innovation or the differentiator is the key part. And when I say innovation, I don't mean that did you make a Snapchat filter, but it means did you find a better way to tell a story than anybody else. So we have this thing when we do things here saying that, okay, when you come up with an idea, is that an idea the brand manager could have come up with himself? Because it's so obviously there. If it is, then you're not doing your job right, because if somebody's paying you money to come back with it, and if he could have done the same thing himself, then you've not added value, right? So that's the whole point. So it's interesting to read the brief that people had and how they've tackled it, and I look forward to hearing the the out of the box approach kind of a thing. But yeah, it's somewhat, how differently did you tackle it? It's going to, it's not about how many different things you did, it's about how differently you did things.